Welcome back to CCPS Digital Learning Day, and you're right in the middle of our hour of social studies. Coming up next is our secondary social studies curriculum specialist, Lynn Bland, and she's going to be featuring a website from Stanford History Education Group. Lynn is actually right here live on location, so we're going to be rolling her in here in just a minute. So there won't be a handoff like you've seen with some of our other videos, but Catherine has some information for you.
Yeah, if you're tuned in live with Lynn today and you want to interact with her, there we go. We'll get it all in the picture. You can go to bit.ly/CCPSDLD, and there's a back channel document there. So if you have questions or wonders for her as she's sharing the information, you can drop them in there and she will either answer them at the end if she has time, or she'll come back and answer them later. And if you only have time to tune into this one video today and you want to check out what else is going on, if you go to the same link, it will have all of the videos throughout the day posted as we're going through. So this is really your one-stop shop resource for today. With that being said, I'm going to roll out of this.
Roll out, and Lynn Bland is going to roll in. Here we go. This is kind of like an SNL weekend update. Our guest is like rolling in here. So here we have our instructional specialist, Lynn Bland, and she is going to be featuring a website for us.
So welcome to my YouTube live segment, Spotlighting SHEG today. The first thing I like to do is to go ahead and share my screen with you, and Chris is going to help me do that. Awesome. All right, here we go. So first of all, SHEG stands for the Stanford History Education Group. SHEG works directly with school districts to conduct research and share their free resources. SHEG's two most commonly used resources are Reading Like a Historian and Beyond the Bubble. Civic Online Reasoning Assessments are their newest release, and plans are in the works to support teachers as they help students navigate and evaluate online content and resources. So this overall SHEG History Education Group, or SHEG, is a very rich tool that supports the current shift in history education to a more balanced approach to instruction and assessment. So teachers who actually create a free SHEG account will be able to download lessons and assessments for immediate classroom use. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and log in. Great. All right, so now I'm in my account. So what I'd like to do first is to start with the Reading Like a Historian curriculum. So I'm going to click on here. And I'm going to get us to take a quick look at this brief video about the purpose of reading like a historian.
At every expectation and beyond.
I think I'm a believer. Teachers have commented, they're like, I wish this is the way I would have learned history. I looked at the sourcing first, and then I closely looked at the document.
The first thing that this program does that's very different is that it turns history into a series of questions rather than a series of answers. A Reading Like a Historian lesson would provide students with a series of primary source documents. Students would work together and ask themselves questions like, who wrote this? What else would I need to know to make a considered and valued judgment?
The source isn't specified.
So if it was economics, they don't talk about economics.
You do engage the facts and the dates and the personalities, but in a much more meaningful and deeper way.
Nothing has happened yet, so he has no reason to go to war. History is often taught as if it's settled, and for me to tell them this isn't settled, you have to figure it out, is empowering.
Who is this guy?
We know that most of our students will not go on to become professional historians, but we hope that they will learn a set of skills that are applicable in life.
This isn't just memorizing, that you're figuring out how to evaluate all the information that you're getting. With the focus on ELA and math and science and STEM, history is kind of being pushed to the wayside, and by using these materials, we can help teach kids skills to make them successful. We can help make history relevant again. We can help with these Common Core objectives.
With the Common Core State Standards, there's a big push for the use of primary and secondary source documents. And the Stanford History Education Group does that legwork for you. all the online materials are free. You can't get any better than that, right? Especially when they're meaningful, well thought out materials. You're going to read that document, then answer the questions.
The Reading Like a Historian approach really has tremendous potential to transform history classrooms.
We tested the Reading Like a Historian curriculum in 5 San Francisco high schools, and we found that students in Reading Like a Historian classrooms outperformed their counterparts.
When we started utilizing it, I saw dramatic changes in behavior, in interest, in confidence.
It's a lifesaver for teachers that these resources are available and are so phenomenal.
What I like about the Reading Like a Historian curriculum is the way it not only focuses on what students know, it also focuses on what students can do with what they know. Students learn how to investigate historical questions by using reading strategies. And so yes, history teachers can teach reading comprehension by engaging students in activities that teach sourcing, contextualizing, corroborating, and close reading of primary sources. So let's go down here a little bit. So SHEG also provides a series of videos about how teachers use these materials in their classrooms. These quick videos provide the tips that teachers need to feel comfortable trying the activities in their own classrooms. So I would like to share one 2-minute video that uses the strategy of turn and talk, which is a strategy that is near and dear to my heart. Right? So let's take a look.
So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and turn to your partner. So let's go ahead and make sure we do that. Let's turn to our partners, Okay, so your 8 minutes to go ahead and read and answer the questions starts now. So the reason I have kids actually physically pick up their chairs and turn to their partner is that I find that lots of times when I say, okay, work together, they don't actually know what that really means or what that looks like. And so when I actually ask them to physically turn their bodies, they are way more engaged with each other and they are way more willing to actually talk through a document together.
Taking into account the context of the time period and everything the British have done to the Indians, would you support Gandhi's philosophy? Why or why not?
I said yes. You would just want to be peaceful and not fight back if they were like totally taking over your land.
Yeah, because if you fight back, then you would lose. You could lose like a best friend or something.
And I find especially when they're doing something like document analysis, which is not easy, it really helps to talk to somebody else to also verbalize what you are actually thinking about the document. So the turning to your partner really gets them to like make eye contact with their partner, gets them to ask more questions to their partner. And just that little shift, it really makes it feel like a more academic classroom than if, in a classroom where the kids are really like looking out for each other versus just doing everything on their own.
So another important part of SHEG online resources is Beyond the Bubble. Beyond the Bubble provides over 80 performance-based history assessments of thinking, and they're also known as HATs. There are rubrics and example student responses that are annotated and also includes insights on how to use them. If you scroll down, you're going to see a link that says Going Deeper. Once again, there are examples here to support teachers to sort of understand how these assessments work. So I'm going to click on this short video about going deeper with these assessments.
So, you've given your students the slave quarters assessment and you've gone through their answers. Some students are spot on in evaluating the photo. Others clearly need help. What do? You'll notice on our main assessment page, there are a series of assessments listed as same assessment type. These assessments follow the same format as this one, but use a different primary source from the Library of Congress. Although the documents differ, all hats of the same assessment type target a similar aspect of historical thinking. We've designed hats to be used flexibly. For example, after you've identified some common errors in students' responses to the slave quarters assessment, you could go over it in class and then ask students to complete another hat of the same type. Doing so gives you immediate feedback about students' ability to source a document. You might also realize that students need more practice with this historical thinking skill. After you spend more time on it in class, you might assess students with a hat of the same type later on to chart their growth. Another option would be to use a different version of the assessment in an end-of-unit test. Regardless of how you choose to use hats, students' answers give you specific information about where they still need help. By using a sequence of hats from each assessment type, you can monitor students' progress as they become proficient historical thinkers.
So I would encourage you to visit additional videos on the Going Deeper section, which will give you some additional sort of professional development on how you might use these history assessments. The last part of the SHEG website I will share with you today is their most recent edition. And who better to tell you about this than Dr. Sam Weinberg?
Our project is about how young people make judgments about the information that they encounter online. Increasingly, the source of information in the way that young people learn about the world is through the digital information that they're exposed to. You can look at many young people today, and many of them have never held a physical newspaper. And so we encounter the world through bits and bytes.
My experience as a classroom teacher informs how I approach this project. I don't think we have a solid approach at all in any way to thinking about how we teach kids to evaluate evidence and arguments online and how we assess it.
And so our project is about developing assessments that examine young people's facility with the kind of social and political information that they encounter online, which in many ways is a prerequisite for their ability to make sound judgments as citizens.
These assessments will be tools that teachers can use in their classroom, and we'll do some observing of teachers using them in their classrooms and start to get a better sense of how these things are used, whether they do a good job informing instruction and changing the way that teachers are thinking about their students' skills at assessing evidence and arguments online.
Right now, we can examine and assess how young people deal with a static piece of text. But how they judge the difference between the New York Times as opposed to Gawker or BuzzFeed, those kinds of assessments don't yet exist.
The kids do things like rely on placement in the Google search results as a proxy for credibility. So they think if it comes up first, it must be the most reliable resource, right? Which is pretty terrifying when you start to search for different things online and see what comes up first in the search results.
What used to be the province of subject matter experts or publishers or editors or librarians now falls on the shoulders of each and every one of us.
Because the internet's not going to change, right? They're not going to start only allowing credible information on the internet. So we're the ones that need to change and get better at doing this. And I think we do that by teaching students to do it.
So I'm glad you joined me today to learn more about the valuable resources provided for history teachers and students from Stanford History Education Group. Please consider visiting this site to learn more about the additional resources I was unable to show you today. I hope to continue promoting this resource in Chesterfield County Public Schools, especially as Virginia moves away from standardized multiple choice assessment for history students to a more balanced approach to instruction and assessment, which includes performance-based resources. Thank you for being a participant in my YouTube Live segment.
All right, thank you, Lynn. We've rolled right back into frame here. That seems like a website with a wealth of information on it. I really like the point that the teacher made in that last video, that it is our responsibility to educate our students how to have a critical eye when searching online, and that first search result sometimes is not the most credible one. So it's very important, especially in today's day and age. All right, so coming up next with our hour of social studies is Kelsey Pacer. She is a fellow technology integrator, and she's going to be highlighting Google Arts and Culture's website. So please stay tuned for that, and we'll be back in a minute.